I'm David Wethey, probably best known as Chairman of Agency Assessments, which has been around for 25 years now, helping clients find agencies. I've written a book. The book is called Decide. The subtitle of the book is Better Ways of Making Better Decisions. And the first thing I should say is that because I've written a book on decision making, it doesn't and couldn't make me an expert on decision making. I'm a student of decision making and I'm learning all the time. But the reason I wrote the book is that having spent literally 25 years sitting with clients at the end of pitch processes and watching how teams of men and teams of women and older teams and younger teams and teams from America and teams from India and God knows what, watching them make decisions, I just became fascinated by the dynamics of decision making, both in terms of individuals and in terms of the way teams work together to make decisions. So that's why I did it, and the purpose of the book is to share a few tips with my readers and to help them turn themselves into the best decision maker they possibly can be. Now, whenever you write a book, you get some surprises, and I suppose the biggest surprise I had was when I did the interviews with the 20 to 25 people who I picked as kind of great deciders. Because I thought that if I talked to, explorers and politicians and obviously business people, but also generals and referees and umpires and everything else, what I'd get was some anecdotal stuff, some tips that I could make more general tips out of. What I discovered is that the people I was interviewing had an extraordinary level of determination. I discovered that they were people who had had remarkably influenced childhoods. These were people with dreams rather than goals, without exception. Extraordinary people. And so in the book, the first chapter I've called literally Dreams and Determination, because I felt that in many ways the best way to communicate how I think decision making can be improved was to tell stories. So there's a lot of storytelling. Now, I can't possibly give you in 5 minutes all the tips you need to make good decisions. So what I'll try and do is just give you a couple of headlines. And the headlines sort of go like this. The first thing that you have to remember is that we have been taught logic, rationality, problem solving. We've had an expensive education, many of us, and the expensive education told us that problem solving and decision making was a very rational, logical process. Well, I've got news for you. It isn't really. Most of the decisions we make are made within some kind of structure, but on some kind of autopilot as well, because intuition and inspiration is probably the most important bit. And that's because somewhere between 90 and 95% of everything we think and do and say and feel, right from the moment we get up to the moment we go to bed, roughly 95% of that stuff is subconscious and not conscious. So the subconscious, the autopilot part of us, is really, really important for decision making. And I think that is crucial when you think how almost everybody imagines that there must be some kind of reductive iterative process which tells us how to do it. That's the most important thing. The second thing is that decisions are, in the end, absolutely about people. They're about people making decisions, us making decisions on our own, as part of teams, and the people we're making decisions with or about. And the people factor is absolutely vital. And profiling ourselves and profiling teams to make sure that the teams work well together is essential. So if we've got people, we next come to time. And in the book, I've made a big thing about time, because a lot of decisions we have to make, human beings have to make, people in the emergency services have to make, pilots have to make, people in accident and emergency units have to be made in 60 seconds or quite a lot less. And so fast decision taking, 60 seconds or less, is central to our whole process, because even if we've got longer, there are a lot of things that we have to decide quite quickly. So this is not a relaxed process necessarily, because the 60 seconds and less is very important. We then come to 60 minutes, which is the meeting, We all spend half our life in meetings, and the average meeting probably lasts about an hour, about 60 minutes. So clearly we've got to look at the unit of time, which is an hour, 60 minutes for a meeting. Then you get 60 hours, which is being asked to look at something over the weekend or look at something on a Monday and come back on a Thursday. You then get 60 days, which is 2 months, which is an average time for a serious project. And then you get the much longer period, let's say 60 weeks, which is a major kind of green paper into white paper, annual, 1 year type of project. So time is crucial. The next thing I'd say from my experience in the pitch area is that selecting, as in selecting an agency, or if one was in the executive search world, choosing people to work in companies, choosing is a three-dimensional type of decision-making. Why? Because you can't really get on with the decision-making till you've decided what the options are. And the options, i.e. the candidates, have to be whittled down and eliminated. So we don't start by choosing, strangely. We start by eliminating, and you see it all the time in Britain's Got Talent, you see it in any kind of beauty contest or anything else. There is a first stage of finding out who you're going to choose from, then reducing them before you can get into the decision-making process. One question people often ask is, how can I avoid being wrong? How can I avoid making the wrong decision? And I think there are two answers to that. The first is, the better your process, the better the process you use for decision-making, the less likely it is you are going to be wrong. The reason most people are wrong is that they either overestimate the upside of one of the options they've got, or even more disastrously, underestimate a really bad downside. So you can certainly do things that stop you being wrong or make it less likely that you are going to be wrong. But remember how kids learn to walk. They learn to walk by falling over. And I don't believe anyone can become a better decision maker without making some bad decisions, provided you learn from them. I think it's really important. Another tip for kind of activating your subconscious, for making sure you aren't too much a prisoner of that logical thinking. And it's the simplest thing in the world, and it comes from a saying that we heard when we were tiny children, which is sleep on it. Sleep on it is probably the best tip in the world. Don't rush to a decision when you're tired, when you've been working all day, when it's late at night. Think about it. Sleep on it. Come back in the morning and you'll find, and we all know this, that the brain has kind of settled and you've got a much clearer vision of the decision you've got to make. So remember, sleep on it.